Hey guys, PepperAmmy here. Man, it's been a while since I've said that, but today we are making Cornish saffron bread. Now, while I play with this whiteboard and make a cup of tea, where have I been? Well, the last month or so after making a video 3 times and it corrupting 3 times, along with starting a new full-time job and already being short on time from that, and failing the same video 3 times, I basically took the month to factory reset and try and get into a routine for video making again around my full-time job. And I got some new SD cards and I got a good stock of batteries. And if that all worked, and that's going to stop the corruption of the video, you should be seeing this video right now. Now back to today's video, saffron bread. Now being Cornish myself, I thought it was about time I gave this a go, especially now I'm back in Cornwall. Now I do also apologise for any continuity errors that may appear in this video, as I was a little bit all over the place this week as I didn't have too much time to plan this video out. First we want to warm 300 ml of milk to just under boiling and attempt to measure out half a teaspoon of saffron threads. Now, I used my 1/4 teaspoon without realising, so I added in some extra later on. Now, once your milk is heated, you want to add in the saffron threads to the milk and let this steep like a good cup of tea for around 30 minutes. Now, as this cools, the milk will go from white to a pale custard to a rich mustard yellow kind of a colour. Now, this is what's going to give the bread its yellowy hint. Now whilst the milk steeps, you want to prepare the other ingredients. You want to weigh out 400 grams of white flour. Then to this you want to either add 25 grams of fresh yeast or around 15 grams of dried yeast. Now as a cook's tip, if the recipe asks for fresh yeast but you only have dry yeast, you want to multiply the weight of the fresh yeast you will need by 0.6, and this should give you the amount of yeast you will need. And then add that to the bowl with the flour. Next, into the flour we want to add a good grating of fresh nutmeg, or if you use ground because you like missing out on the intense flavour of fresh ground nutmeg, it's kind of like coffee, fresh ground is a lot better than pre-ground. But anyway, you want to add half a teaspoon of that and half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon too. You want to also add 50 grams of ground almonds. Now if you can only find whole almonds, you just want to put them in a blender and pulse a few times. Now you don't want to overblend this, or like peanuts you will end up with almond butter. Then you want to add that to the flour along with 50 grams of sugar and give a good mix. Then you want to make a well in the middle of the flour mixture and then wait for the milk to cool down as to not kill the yeast. Once cooled but still warm, add in 75 grams of soft butter and the infused milk, including the saffron threads. Now it's quite fun whilst needing to spot the individual threads throughout the dough. Then give this a good mix. Now of course, talking of kneading, you want to tip out onto a countertop, optionally with some flour, and knead for around 5 minutes, or the length of Land of the Lost by Parkway Drive. And then by this time the dough should be smooth and springy when pressed, but it'll have a slight glossy sheen to it as it does have butter in it. Then you want to place the smooth dough in a bowl for around an hour until doubled in size. Now I was planning on doing this in my dehydrator, but remembering there is butter in there, I decided against it in the fear the butter would separate out due to the extra heat. Now once risen, you know what happens next. Knock back and add in 100 grams of raisins or a mix of currants and sultanas, either way 100 grams. And now I didn't notice this earlier, but when you knead this, the ground almonds will give it a bit of a rough texture, kind of like a undissolved or unbroken down sugar in a pastry. And then you just want to knead all of these sultanas, currants, raisins, whatever you're using, in whilst listening to another absolute classic, which is had away what is love. Yes, my music taste does vary somewhat. Next, you want to divide the dough between 2 loaf pans, optionally greased if you have no faith in the non-stick, but I trust these pans. They may have been cheap, but they are a really good non-stick pan. And then we want to let the loaves rise for another hour or so before cooking. Now once risen, you want to preheat your oven to 220°C or 425 Fahrenheit and bake the loaves for 10 minutes, reduce the heat down to 190 or 375, and then bake for a further 15 to 20 minutes until golden. Now you want this to be golden brown, not just golden, as the dough is already a kind of gold anyway. Now optionally, whilst the loaves bake, you can make a glaze by heating 30 ml of milk and dissolving 1 tablespoon of sugar in it. But once the loaves are baked, brush the glaze over the top. But I opted out of this as it's now 9:30 at night, and that's the normal time that I go to bed since I've started this job. So the slicing part of the bread will have to wait till the morning. Now once baked, either optionally brush with the glaze that you have made, or if not, just leave to cool in the tins for 5 minutes and then transfer to a wire rack to cool. Then you want to just slice and enjoy, and there you have it, Cornish saffron bread loaf cake thing. Now hopefully if all things go smooth with this video, I'm currently doing the voiceover at around 6 o'clock in the morning, actually to be exact it's 6:14, and that is just before I leave for work, and that is going to be before I discover the state of the footage after work, so I'm hoping it was the SD card that was the problem. So if all things go to plan, you are now watching this video on Friday. But as always, if you like what you saw, let me know with a like and a comment down below. If you're indeed new here, feel free to subscribe for free weekly cooking content, normally. And I will see you all again next week. Thanks for watching.